Welcome everyone to FATED ARPG podcast, episode number 103. It's been a little while, and we're back from Gamescom. Well, at least some of us are. Sadly, Balor couldn't go, but we're going to be here to destroy his FOMO by telling him all about it. And if you've supported the podcast recently, you will be on the end screen, and if you support it during this episode, you'll make it on the next end screen as usual. And now, how are you doing, Balor?
Well, hello. Great. Very early in the morning, but I'm awake now. So we're good.
Awesome, you made it. Yeah, as we're running late, should we jump directly into the episode?
Let's jump in.
Did you know that 143, our episode number, is not a prime number? It's disappointing, really. You look at it and you think it's a prime number, but it's actually not only divisible by 1 in itself, but also by 11 and 13. But to make up for that, we got two prime guests today with us. And welcome to Zizaran and wudijo.
Hi.
Hello, guys.
Thanks for having me.
I ran into these guys at Gamescom, or during Gamescom, and I figure it would be nice to have an episode together while the memories are still fresh, to talk a little bit about what we discovered, and yeah. So, well, as usual, it's customary that we give the guests a little bit of a moment to introduce themselves. So how have you been, Zizaran? How have you recovered from Gamescom?
Yeah, I mean, I survived Gamescom, didn't get sick, then went to a wedding, got sick right after, so that was annoying. I mean, I can't be doing too good because I'm playing Ruthless right now, so that was the choice. But no, it's better than I expected, to be honest. So
Ruthless,
surprisingly
or
enjoying it.
Oh, right. I thought Gamescom,
Yeah.
maybe.
No, that was also better than I expected. I was not expecting to be that business focused. I thought it would be more like Twitch cons, where it's more about streamers partying and drinking, but it was like super business oriented, so I really like that.
Oh, I love that.
Maybe it's just you, sis. Just like you're just in that business zone.
True. I did prefer that.
Yeah,
It was very nice.
I think I would have liked a little bit more socializing, but I'll take inspiration from your approach next time. I think I thought that was very impressive. But yeah, Woody, as a first-time guest here on FATED, thanks for coming. And would you like to introduce yourself a little bit to the audience, or at least the little bit of the audience that may not know you already?
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure. So yeah, I'm Woody, or wudijo. I play a lot of, especially Diablo these days, but in general, like all the ARPGs. And I have also played a lot of Path of Exile in the past. I have like 4,000 hours as well from basically years ago. I'm not really playing it too much these days. I'm more hyped for like PoE 2. PoE 1 is kind of like, I'm just in the waiting room kind of at this point, I gotta say. But I do enjoy it here and there on the league launches a bit. So I'm still kind of keep up with what's going on. And I know a lot of the guys as well. So I'm quite glad to be here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Just one question before we dive into the PoE 2 stuff. Was this your first time playing PoE 2, or were you at any of the events prior to this?
For me,
Yes.
I was invited to like the events. So they invited me on 2 events, I think, one in LA and maybe both, I'm not sure. But I didn't go because it's just so far. And also the timing was pretty off for me. So I decided not to do it and just wait. But yeah, on Gamescom now, I was actually going there multiple times, and they kind of like allowed me to kind of sneak in a little bit when there was downtime, and like in the PoE like business area there, where it was a bit secluded and I didn't have to queue. It was nice. So I blasted quite a bit of PoE 2 now. I'm quite happy about it.
Awesome. I would have loved that. I didn't know that was an option. Should have lurked around there more.
Well, maybe I just got lucky. I don't know. Like I had an appointment with them at one point, and I just asked him, can I come back maybe at some point? And so this is how that developed.
So you played the full 45-minute demo version multiple times, is what you're saying? Because from what I know, there was like only the 45 minutes in the customer area on day 1. Maybe they even cut it short later already when it went public. And then other than that, there was only the 45 minutes in the B2B.
Yeah,
because
basically.
Afterwards it was 30.
I played like, I think 4 or 5 different classes for 45 minutes. So that was pretty cool.
That is amazing. Right.
Yeah. Like, well, I just want to say real quick, like, I feel like PoE or like ARPGs in general translate like really badly into 45 minutes demos. It's like, if you enjoyed the 45-minute demo, like once you actually get to play like your own character properly, it does feel a lot better.
Yeah, they had like some preset characters, so I used those. I didn't start from level 1
Yeah.
and didn't do the starting area all the time. So there was like one at level 10, one at 15, one at 20. So I actually saw different stuff. And since I already
Yeah.
knew like most of the skills and so on from the other previews, I have watched them from the other guys. So yeah, some stuff was different, but you know, you kind of got the hang of it pretty fast. There was also not really many options, let's say, with changing a build very much in like such a
Yeah,
demo.
exactly.
It was
Like,
definitely
that
a lot
was the
different.
nice thing about the LA event.
Yeah, LA was a lot better than the other times I've played, just because make a character at level 1, play for. I mean, I probably only got like 5.5 hours of playtime total or something, but
Yeah.
that's still pretty good. I'm not even going to enjoy PoE 1 that much if I've got a 45-minute play at a random start through the campaign.
Yeah.
But yeah, then it's now all I can think about is PoE 2. I just want to play it now and all the time.
Yeah, same. That's maybe a good thing to go quickly over. How much did you play Ziz at Gamescom?
Oh, I just did like, I was pretty unlucky. Like we were there like so early, and it kept crashing and stuff. Like they had some issues because it was like the first patch. I got. I mean, I did end up getting like 45 minutes basically, kind of like an hour and 20 minutes because the crashes, I guess. And yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of this for the 45-minute demos. I think like PoE without getting like upgrades and progressing through your character from level 1 like doesn't really feel like PoE. So I enjoyed it a lot less at Gamescom and ExileCon than I did in LA. Like it's like worlds apart.
Yeah, I think just sitting there for like 5 hours with the one character would be very fun as well. But I did like just getting a kind of like a snapshot from each of the different characters and just getting a bit of a feel for like having the 3-4 different skills as a combo already, and how you can weave them together. That was kind of fun.
Yeah. No, as much as I agree with you, Ziz, I also think like, yeah, you can judge what was shown on its own merits, right? I mean, sure, it's not what PoE 2 is going to be, and probably not what we mostly enjoy about it, but I did feel like the gameplay was really cool to get in, and the bosses are so well designed, and I mean,
Yeah,
we're
I
gonna
love
get
the
into it.
bosses.
This sounds weird. I like the campaign bosses in PoE 2 that we've played so far more than I like any of the endgame bosses we have right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
they're all like they're all
better.
designed very similar to Uber, so
Yeah, they're all like Ubers, but they don't one-shot you. That's how it feels. It feels like a real mechanical fight. But I'm not getting one-tapped. I will die
Yeah.
still.
Some of
But
them
that's
do have a really steep learning
good.
curve.
Oh yeah, no, I'll still die. I'll get hit 2 or 3 times and then die instead of getting one-tapped. That feels better.
If we ever get to play at a co-op couch event again, remind me to not restart in the middle, because there was an embargo on one of the characters we played, so we wanted to get some other footage as well, some footage we could use faster, and then we cut our session off,
I should have just
unfortunately.
started with that one and just been
Because
like,
we could have
just
made it
don't
through
release.
Act 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, quickly speaking for myself about PoE 2 at Gamescom, I played the 45-minute demo, but I had my appointment on Thursday in the B2B, so on Wednesday I already played when we were crashing, right, what you described, Ziz, when there was some server down, whatever. But I think I talked to Octavian, and they upped like the RAM or the something that was allocated for the server, I think more space, and then it went fluently. And then afterwards I queued again and played Merc as prep for my B2B footage. And I think I played Ranger, I don't know exactly when. And then I did like 2 Warrior playthroughs as well on the 30-minute demo version on the last day of Gamescom, because I really wanted to get some more in. And that's the thing I wanted to say real quick. They let me keep the gamepad. I was there last, and they said you can take the gamepad, which is, I mean,
Yo.
it has a big old QR
oh,
code
that's
on
so
it.
cool.
And it's
Yeah, it
a
looks
nice
pretty
little
cool.
like, exclusive thing.
Yeah,
That's nice.
very
I
cool.
saw this one, yeah. Wish list now, guys.
Huh.
But yeah,
That's
I
cool.
want one.
let's get right into it. Way too much foreplay. Features that stand out. As longtime fans of the ARPG genre, what stood out most about the PoE 2 gameplay demo to you? Who wants to go first? I think it's interesting to hear Woody first here.
Well,
Seeing that you're not like
what
the
stood out the
most
most
PoE
is
guy.
like it's like a very long boss fights. I feel like once you know a little bit what you are doing, you can get through the zones pretty quickly, but you cannot really do the bosses very fast, I noticed. Unless you have maybe some crazy combo or it's like a bit overtuned. I felt like with all of the characters I played, I had like multiple minutes boss fights, some faster than shorter and some others shorter, but others longer. And yeah, it would just be like a very long campaign, mostly due to the bosses. I think if you do like a full campaign playthrough as an experienced player, as someone who kind of knows the zones, where to go, how to group up monsters and blast down an entire screen or something, you will actually just do like 50% boss fights of the entire like time allocation. And then it's like, I don't know, maybe 5% fiddling with your build, 30% running, and then like 10% talking to NPCs or so. This is kind of what I expect right now. And that's kind of interesting because usually boss fights, especially early game boss fights, are always extremely trivial, I feel. They are in PoE, they are in D4, in D3, like, boss fights are just kind of like whatever. And in PoE 2, it seems like, yeah, there's actually going to be just a chain of bosses. So this is my impression, which is kind of cool. I like that. I like the slower boss fights and the slower pace in general. So I think that's gonna go pretty well, especially with people that want a bit more of like a hardcore ARPG.
That is fair. Ziz, do you have any thoughts on
Yeah, I
what
mean,
stood out
I'm
more?
on the same note. I'm almost a little bit worried that they'll make it a little bit too hard because obviously at like the LA event and stuff, we saw some game journalists like literally quit playing because they were just getting stumped by like the Devourer and the first bosses, and I'm like, oh, how are the reviews gonna be for this if like the people can't even like? It reminded me of like Cuphead, where like so many game journalists were like, oh, this game is like way too hard. But obviously there is a big audience for that, so it'll just be curious to see. Like I personally loved it. I thought the bosses were like a lot more engaging. The only like main concerns I have for PoE 2 now, especially after the LA event where I like really got to like enjoy it a lot more, is the people that want like one button builds might have a really rough time. I'm actually quite okay with using multi-button abilities. Like I don't mind playing like Desecrate, DD, or Blade Blast, Blade Fall, stuff like that. So it'll be fine. And also like phasing. Like those are the two things that
Yeah.
stood out to me the most. Like no phasing is crazy. And it might just have to be like an adjustment period. But like as a PoE 1 player, that is like rough. But
Wait, it's confirmed that there's no phasing in the game at all?
there's very little phasing. They said it would be some unique items and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a way to get it, I think that's okay. Like later
so-
on.
Unique items, like so that your dodge roll turns into a phasing thing. So that you can dodge.
That's the thing.
through
I wish that the dodge roll had phasing because, like, I mean, maybe it might just be something I need to get used to. But for me, like getting like quickly enveloped by a bunch of like fast dogs and then just being like bursted down and there's nothing I could do. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. Like, to be fair, I am also approaching it as a PoE 1 player, right? So I'm like, maybe I should just be like doing one or two monsters at a time and waiting for them to come closer to me. But that might not be enjoyable for me. So I don't know. Those are the only things I'm skeptical about. But I'm quite enjoying it.
Is it a PoE 1 player thing though? Because the only game I can think of that I have, the only kind of game I can think of that I've ever played where getting blocked by mobs seems like a good mechanic is like MOBAs
For Dark Souls.
or Dark Souls. Something like Dark Souls makes sense. Any other game I've ever played where you can get like blocked by a mob or by your friend playing co-op has always felt bad. I've always wanted phasing all the time in every other game. So
Yeah.
That's also my one single concern is they're like, we don't think phasing is good. And I'm like, I think phasing's the best, please. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they're right. But either way, they've always proved to be pretty open to feedback. So we'll see, I guess.
I gotta say personally, I didn't really feel that was a problem at all. The getting surrounded or something like that. Even when I like just kind of like understood. For example, I played the warrior for a bit, and you had like this infernal cry. So when you start like killing small stuff, there's like a chain reaction, like pop 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 pop, they all explode when you do the cry. So I tried to like use that to my advantage and just make like a pull of an entire screen or two at the time, and then the cooldown came back and I did the next pull and boom. And it worked pretty well. Maybe it was just like the monsters in certain areas that surrounded you more often or so where this happened to you.
Maybe.
But I felt like I was doing some combos like that on all of the classes, and I did not feel like the lack of phasing was a huge issue. So it might be
That's
just,
good.
maybe my general sense of, okay, how do I have to move through the map in order to not get surrounded or something that helped me there. And I guess once people maybe understand this a little better, then this might not be a huge deal. Especially later when you're like also faster, you have more movement speed or something.
Yeah, for me, it happened on like the Ranger when I was playing basically Toxic Rain. So I ended up pulling like 60, 70 monsters at a time. So definitely partly self-inflicted.
Yeah, which I think they actively don't want us to do. So maybe.
I'm a little bit confused because to me, it felt like I could roll through monsters, but the problem is when the surrounding wall of monsters is too thick for the endpoint of your roll to be outside of the monsters, right?
So, no, it's like a pushing system or something. I forget exactly what they called it, but like we have a weight and mobs have a weight.
Yeah.
And if we're heavier than them, we can roll straight through them and knock them out of the way.
So small monsters they can go through or so.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And they showed, when I was talking about it, they showed like how small your like roll thing is, and you're quite small when you're rolling, but you do still have like a size, so you do so you can't phase through things.
Right, but I felt like in like 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 cases when I did get the feeling I get surrounded, I could roll through the wall of monsters because there was an opening then somewhere. But like, yeah, some cases you just can't get
it's only if you're completely surrounded.
I think one thing that kind of stood out to me as well, now that I think about this more, is melee seems to be way harder than ranged. So that was just my impression. I played the Mongol a bit and the Warrior. And I mean, Warrior was kind of OP with the Infernal Cry. But when it comes to, like, for example, the boss fights, you have to be way more careful with your health purge or your flasks. And there's kind of like this attrition where you just run out of flasks at some point if you don't have any like heal built in or something like that. And at least all of the characters, there wasn't really any like life regen or life per hit that was any like noteworthy number. In fact, at some point I leveled up and I managed to pick up like a regenerate 1% life per second note or so, and suddenly I felt OP in those boss fights.
I was gonna say regen feels so good.
Yeah, dude, I dropped blue gloves with 2 life gain on hit on my recorded Merc run.
Oh my god, man! Insane,
I would have died so much earlier. With the rapid fire bolts, that was really good. I don't know what the total life of the character was. I didn't look it up, but it felt like you can't have more than like 200-300, and then so 2 get life gain on hit felt really good.
Yeah, so that was actually huge, and I imagine that right now when you have this early game stuff where everything is slow and you don't have healing outside of your flasks and you have to play all the boss mechanics. Yeah, it does feel really nice, and there's like this as I said, attrition, and you have to dodge X. You can get hit X many times until you run out of life, basically, which is way better than just Uber boss fights where you just get one tapped or something. But on the other hand, if they introduce stuff like, okay, there's like easy access to life regen or easy access to life per hit, then it's going to go back to something similar to PoE 1, where your life is either full or empty and nothing in between. So that's kind of what I fear here, where we're going with like the late game stuff.
Yeah, I feel like I want to... Yeah, please go for it.
I don't know if they mentioned it anywhere at any point, whether we were still going to have just like a logout macro or a TCP logout macro or anything like that.
So
we were still
they've said about logout macro. Well, they've talked about logout macro quite a lot. So they want the approach to be that when you log out or when you crash or when you game closes for any reason, it just pauses you in that exact location, so that you they want a new approach there from PoE 1, so that you're like, you can't log out, but you'll just stay there. Now, we asked them, I was like, well, what happens if we just wait 15 minutes until the instance time's out? And they were like, oh. So then none of that. And obviously they can't keep the instance open forever, right? But even I think that's a lot better approach. I think it'll be really good.
I think
and allow
15
them
minutes
to
is
design boss fights differently. So it'll be interesting.
I think 15 minutes is a large enough penalty. If you
Yeah.
want to seek a hardcore character or something like that, I think that is fine. You know, like if you're like in a race and it's like really sweaty and you're like, oh man, I
It's
really
pretty
want to
big.
try this boss now and I don't know if I can do it, and you realize, yeah, probably not, and you wait 15 minutes. I mean, that's already punishing enough, I think.
That's an exceptionally worse punishment if you're a streamer too, because now you just sit there.
Well, you can
with
play on
so
another
much
character.
shame, waiting for 15 minutes.
You would just play on another character. But I do think having a downside to logging out is really good.
The reason that I asked that I was interested in it is because that's kind of that disconnect macro that they basically designed PoE1 around using originally. That was a long time ago. But
that
that's
was a
what
very
led
different
to-
time when we had desync.
Yeah, but that's also what led to the trend of full or empty. Because for something to be dangerous, it has to kill you so quick you can't react.
Yep.
And
So hopefully it'll be a
led
lot
to
more
that
like dying
trend.
slowly over time.
So yeah, I'd much rather die over the course of 3 to 5 seconds screwing up than just.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah, I agree.
There seems to be a good point to bring up, because it's slightly related to what's being said. Boss fights, flasking, health sustain, and all that. That there's a big difference between the demo that we played at Gamescom and the demo that Balor and I played in LA, where back then the idea was still you can port out instantly out of normal like zones with monsters, and in boss fights your portal will take a little bit longer. There's an animation to it. But now they changed it so you can't portal out of boss fights at all anymore. You're going to have to do boss fights from 100 to 0 all the time in order to pass the boss. What do you think about that, Tyler?
That I thought was a little weird. I didn't like that. I don't know. I think it would be better if you can at least like have like a natural escape if you've ever committed to the boss. Definitely does sound a little weird for hardcore.
I mean, your
still wanna
escape
be able
is
to
just
exit.
escape. Your escape is just pausing the game for 15 minutes. No, that's your escape.
I guess, but like I would rather just never log out ever.
That sounds weird because I feel like I'd want, like I still want to be able to. I want to be able to be like, nope, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. Leave.
Yeah.
And find a way out. I'm perfect. I'm ecstatically happy with them resetting the boss when you leave. So you have to go from 100 to 0
Yeah,
and you
that's
can't
awesome.
just corpse rush it. That's fantastic. But I definitely want a way out. A way where at the first few seconds of the fight, I go, I definitely shouldn't have been here. I'm absolutely not prepared for this. Let me out.
That obviously it remains to be seen, and we'll find out in early access. But it might be that PoE 2 is more of a game where you have to have fully mastered the game before playing hardcore, whereas PoE 1 is very easy to start playing hardcore on your first character, right? Which is what I did.
That's what I did as well.
But it's that might just not be a viable thing in PoE 2, and I don't think that's like the end of the world. Like you do still have software.
Don't you
Yeah,
think
I agree
as
with that. And I think also like, sorry, but I just want to chime in on this. So it's like, I think it's good that the boss is reset. I think like when you first mentioned this, like, when we want to portal out, I was like, oh man, do they want like flask resets now? Like before, like when it was just like, you know, in the Katawa phases, TP to town, get your flask back, and so on.
Oh no,
But
I think the
if
boss
you
should reset if you portal out.
Yeah, if you reset after TP, I think it would be fine. You know, the penalty is like is to go in and you just realize, okay, I've kind of cleared the area for no reason because I can't do the boss yet, and I have to go back and come back and do a new zone, and I have to go there again and so on, and then it's fine. I think if you can actually manage to do the 3 seconds portal or whatever it takes and get out and safely, I think that should be allowed.
No, I honestly think if they make it so that portaling out is the way out of the fight, then they should bring it back to instant portal. I don't see a reason for it to be there.
No, I think the 3 seconds portal is fine. You know, I need to find the time for it.
Yeah, that feels alright.
Well, I haven't seen all the bosses yet. It might not feel alright in all the bosses, where I might
Then you'll
want to
die.
go out.
Yeah. I don't want. It doesn't have to be super easy to get out. There just should be like an in-game non-cheese feeling way to be like, oh, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
Fair.
Like I've made a horrible mistake. I'm not ready for this. Let me out.
Yeah. Oh, obviously, it will be interesting. Like the early access PoE has, like, in the past, generally been a really bad idea to play on hardcore anyway, because a lot of the balancing in the past has been like insane, as in like not overtuned, but like 10 numbers extra of damage. So there's been like the monsters before Dureso in the Act 4 beta would literally just one shot you. They did like 1,000,000 damage. So it's like
The boat chicken.
definitely
Yeah.
like the 3 XLs. So it's definitely like
Oh,
some
those.
things that are like crazy where you just you can't play hardcore.
You often get things like the Bloodlines packs when they first came out. I don't know if you remember them.
Yeah.
One shot everybody.
Yeah, there's like definitely a few things that I'm expecting to be like very screwy in early access. So it's a no-brainer to try and softcore anyway, and then you'll get to like see like, is the game hardcore friendly?
Yeah, so just quick, because you mentioned hardcore again, I just quickly wanted to ask, when you brought it up earlier, would you recommend people to start in hardcore nowadays? Because I think back then
For
when we
PoE
all
1, yeah,
started
absolutely.
hardcore, I thought the game
If-
changed quite a bit.
Well, I mean, it's infinitely easier now than it is back in the day. Like, you have a lot less things to worry about, like desync and stuff like that. Like when I started playing
that's a good
hardcore,
point.
every bow character would just expect to die roughly every 2 or 3 days on hardcore because of ally reflect packs.
Fair.
So you had like a very like limited time where you would actually be alive. So if you're the type of player that enjoys that and you have enough time to play, yeah, absolutely, it's fun to like start. Just most people don't have enough time to play that. It's just very time intensive.
And the only thing that feels harder now than like back in the day would be Uber bosses, but new players aren't doing Uber bosses. So that's not a concern, right? It's not a thing that you have to worry about.
I actually have some viewers of mine as well that started PoE somewhat recently, like, past few leagues. And there were actually like 1 or 2 of them that I remember that started directly on hardcore. And they actually did apparently really successful runs. So that's quite encouraging to hear. But I think in general, PoE 1 still has like so many little things that you need to know about hardcore. You need to understand, okay, what are all these monsters doing? What are all these affixes doing? Like, what are the typical things that kill you? Reflect will kill you at some point. This knows what, and these kind of things. So there's like so many little things that you always have to kind of keep, at the back of your head. And I think that can be quite overwhelming. I'm not sure if I would recommend a new player to come to PoE1 and play hardcore. If anything, I would tell them.
I think that's going to be crazier in PoE 2, though.
Yeah, if anything, I would say play Ruthless for your first character and not hardcore, because Ruthless at least kind of like, makes you pay attention to what the monsters do a little bit. It doesn't have this, like inventory management, item management, all these kind of things like that much. Maybe like for like the first, let's say 10 hours or so, just play Ruthless and then make a real character or something. That is maybe something I would recommend. But hardcore, I gotta say, in PoE1 is still somewhat rough. Maybe not so much lately with like power creep patches and everything. But yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure I would, after like I'm playing Ruthless right now in PoE, and I'm not sure I would recommend a new player to play it because it's rough. Like you might not see your first alchemy until like Act 4. I still like I'm in Act 10 and I haven't found a singular essence. It's hard out here.
Yeah, I played only a bit of Ruthless once, like when it first came out. I played like through the campaign or something. I kind of had a good time.
It's definitely better now because we got amendment ability.
I think I've never stayed in Ruthless past like getting to maps. That's like always been the end of the journey for me. It's like, okay, I'm fine.
I feel like I'd go back to hardcore far before I went to Ruthless.
Yeah, playing softcore trade to Ruthless would be a rough journey for you.
Yeah. Back to hardcore, way more viable, way more likely to be doing that.
Right. Do you guys find in the PoE2 gameplay demo, do you find any currency or any noteworthy items?
Found a quill rain.
Ooh, also that exists still.
Did it do the same thing?
Pretty much. I can't remember exactly now.
I found a unique
have it
pair of
recorded?
gloves.
No, No, because it was in like when I played in like the just normal non-record boots.
Okay. I didn't find
no,
a
I
single
don't.
unique item, I think. I don't think so. So I don't think I got anything. Just a few yellows. I got like 1 or 2 transmodes. And that was it. So this is like my gear that I found in like 4
Yeah.
hours.
The one thing
It's
that was really
basically useless.
fascinating to me was the ancestral, like the totem node, is you have infinite totems, and it's 50 spirit per totem. So depending on how much spirit you can get, like it's a bit different. Like it's not technically any limit except spirit.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's
there's a bunch
fascinating.
of changes like that, like on the passive tree, I guess, if you want to talk about the passive tree. Like it's still largely the same. I was actually very surprised to see that they didn't really like do something massive, like a change with the passive tree. Like it's still like kind of the same nodes in the same place. Okay, masteries are gone, and now I can choose the attributes on the small nodes, and some stuff is gone, like certain like chance to poison, chance to ignite, and these kind of things. You have to get them from other sources now. But outside of that, I felt like, okay, it seems like same old. I was like a bit surprised to say that a little bit. I'm not sure what was your impression, maybe.
I was surprised masteries are gone. They're like one of my favorite things in PoE1. I think
Yeah,
they're
I was also
so great.
surprised. I really like Last Race. I think that was like one of the great innovations they've done with the passive tree at some point.
I agree.
And now it's just like
weird thing not to keep.
I still want to make a unique that is a unique jewel that lets you take a mastery, and it would just like roll masteries. Like if this is an energy shield mastery jewel, you put a jewel in, you can select 1 mastery. I want it to be quite rare,
idea.
like a watcher's eye chase item style thing. You're like looking for the 1 mastery you can't have access to.
Yeah,
I want it.
Not a bad idea.
Well, to be fair about the passive tree, like every time we do get a look at it, like whether it be in LA or now at Gamescom, they do make an effort to stress that it's like you don't get used to the positions of anything here. It's just still heavily under construction.
That's
right?
true,
Like it's nowhere near
but
final.
masteries I feel like would be in if they were going to be in.
If they were.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, they might change some stuff, but how much are they gonna revamp the entire tree now at this point? I feel like the tree is already has taken several passes. Like I'm sure just looking at it, the nodes are different. They have added like a few little things everywhere. Some of the keystones are different. Yeah, sure, but it still reminds me of like the same old passive tree. That's the whole concept of it, right? And I don't think this is going anywhere. It's like the same like 1,000 cluster tree. And are they changing that? Make it smaller or anything like that? And I don't think that is happening.
I get it. You're saying there's no like revolutionary new twist on the passive tree that you'd expect from a sequel.
And I actually discussed this a bunch with. Yeah, make it 3-dimensional. That would be badass. Yeah. No, but to be real, I discussed it actually with like some other of my friends, like also like someone who's played PoE too, and yeah, we both had the same conclusion. Like, why did they do that? I feel like, if there's one thing that like GSG should fix, it's the passive tree in the sense of, new player experience. Like, I feel like this is going to be such a huge turn for a lot of people, just like it was in PoE1. It's like the one thing I always hear from my chat is like, oh man, I played PoE1 until level 3. Then I pressed P and I uninstalled. This is literally what I hear. This is like the reason why 80% of people leave, at least from my perspective, let's say, right? And yeah, personally, I don't have an issue with that. I know the tree and I know the nodes and so I have whatsoever. And I think actually the passive tree is one of the simplest systems in the entire game. But most people don't understand that, right? That people look at this and they're like, oof, and they're out. Yep. And so this surprised me, and I was like, okay, what can I do? Like, I think the passive tree would literally be upgraded if they just added fog of war to it. You just like unlock, and you kind of like, path your way through, and then see like only a few nodes in your area or something like that. And until maybe later there's like some certain breakpoint or some quest unlock or whatever. But just to kind of keep the new player experience, from people uninstalling at level 3. So that's just.
Did we have that conversation on the table when I joined you guys, or
maybe we also talked about it? I'm not sure if you also said that
because I feel oddly reminded, like the
yeah, okay, maybe I brought it up
the first couple levels, or or fog of war, like you said. honestly think that wouldn't be the worst idea to not scare people away, because the people who are really interested are going to look at screenshots or like other resources anyway to find out more about the passive tree, right? And the people who don't care enough, they just would stay in the
It
game.
is very
and explore.
overwhelming.
Yeah, I
'Cause,
don't
like,
think it's
I
even
know,
overwhelming.
Hmm?
Yeah, keep going. No, it's just.
Well, I was
just
gonna
wanna
say,
I
like,
don't-
even in games like Last Epoch, right, where it's not that crazy. Like, as a new player, whenever I see it, I'm like, oh, do I really have to like look at everything before I start? So PoE has that to like 10x, right? Like, it's so extreme in PoE.
Yeah, I don't think so. Actually, it's just that people don't know what they need to look for, and then they start looking around, and they're like, "Oh man, okay, what is this? What is that?" And so on, right? But at least in PoE, you go to kind of skill tree by skill tree, and it takes like maybe 1 or 2 minutes to kind of like understand. Okay, this is this, this is that, and so on. And in PoE, there's like, if you have no idea about anything, then he's gonna start looking around, and you get stuck, and then people are gonna like get nervous and quit or something. So I think this is really the problem here. If you know what you're looking for, like if you tell someone who's never played PoE and he says, okay, you don't know what this passive tree looks like, but let me tell you this. You're playing a ranger, you go for bow nodes, you go for crit nodes, and you go for life nodes. Enjoy, and just tell them that, use the search bar on the top right. Just type these 3 things. Yeah, and they will probably be somewhat successful and not have that problem. So maybe it's just also like a bit of a problem of like, okay, maybe there could be better highlighting, or there could be, something like that to kind of like guide players, through the system better, instead of like having them look around to find the nodes somewhere on the tree. I don't know. So
Yeah, I have to make it better for sure.
So one tiny option that is something Torchlight does, which is that it has like a little. It's not even that good of a build. It's just a functioning build that's just like lightly suggested to you at the beginning by slightly highlighting nodes that you can blatantly ignore. But it lets a brand new first time player who's never looked at anything just be like, oh yeah, so this is like the suggested path, and if you take that, it will all function.
I'm a big fan of that.
I didn't dislike that. That was pretty good.
yeah, I think that's maybe too much for PoE standards. So
yeah, I don't see them doing it, but I like it. But I don't see PoE doing it though.
Maybe there could be something like you can select like multiple things at once, that like like clusters or like tags or something, like say what I just said, right? Bow, crit, life, or something for a ranger, and you just like permanently highlight them or something like that. Like you check mark them or something.
Like
and
an
you're like,
item
okay,
filter for the passive tree.
This is kind of where I want to go, and then you're also gonna understand. You're gonna start making the connection. Oh yeah, I'm like mostly here in the bottom right of the tree, and then I go maybe a bit up there to the shadow, or go a bit down to the duelist or something like that. And then you're also gonna get an idea, like when you make the next character, and then you're gonna play like a witch, and you're like, okay, I go for fire and dot and life and mana. And then okay, this is more on the top side here, and then you're gonna start making these connections without necessarily making a perfect path through those nodes, right? It doesn't have to be the perfect or something, or suggested. Okay, go here, go there. I don't know. This could be a way, maybe, just to like reduce the complexity for new players, basically.
I agree. It would be great to have like some sort of way to get people into it earlier and quicker, because I remember when I started playing, that was one of the things that took the longest, was like knowing where and which on the passive tree to pick, like which things to prioritize, which things are bad, and also to learn, you don't skip life, you want to give life, which is in PoE 2, there's not going to be life on the passive tree, they said, right? There's no more increased or flat life, there's just strength, which gives flat life at 6 times the value that it gave before, like 3 life per strength. That's going to be weird.
I like that idea, though.
Let's go.
Yeah, I think in general, limiting the defenses that it can build and also the recovery is going to be incredibly important in order to preserve this gameplay that we liked so much from like the early preview, right? I guess most people that here that played it really enjoy the boss fights, and this back and forth, and it's actually like meaningful, like dodging each attack as much as you can, and that's just really fun. And if you let people just build into basically invincibility or infinite recovery, then he's gonna completely destroy that. And we go back to PoE 1, I guess. So I think it's kind of a good choice.
Yeah. I mean, the boss fights feel really good.
Which bosses did you fight? You fought the 4th boss in the Merc demo, right? That I didn't get to, but
I fought most. I fought every boss in Act 1 and Act 2 now, and some Act 1, Act 3 boss. Like I started fighting the Sun boss, but yeah, like the coolest one was like the Iron Count. It was really cool.
yeah, I died to that one.
It was hard.
It was really rough. That was the run where I had the 2 life gain on hit gloves. That's why I stuck in there for so long. But then he like did the fog phase, and at the same time the ability where like he does the marks from top that detonate after a short moment. And I had no idea that that could happen at the same time. I thought like fog phase is guaranteed just fog phase. I still have no idea whether it was a bug or. But what I wanted to ask is, yeah, like, do you want to talk a little bit about WASD and the boss fights, or in relation to the boss fights?
Yeah.
Did you play exclusively WASD or also?
Yeah, I
traditional
tried
keyboard?
playing with the mouse, and I was like, "Wow, this is awful compared to WASD." Part of that is just like moving while shooting. Felt really weird with the mouse. Like you kind of need the mouse to aim for most things. Like I said, I played most of my time on Ranger, so like Ranger without WASD would feel really weird, I think. I was very skeptical with WSD, and it's just like moving while attacking just feels so damn good. Like it's actually life changing. I loved it. So yeah, I mean, I definitely will be exclusively WSD. I think in PoE 2. Like it just felt amazing, really really enjoyable.
I'm hoping it stays that good for controller as well, because I really enjoyed the controller that we did in LA.
Huh.
That's probably because my hands are screwed though.
Yeah, I don't care much about controller, but I see that definitely want to make it controller viable, I guess, right? There's also like where that will probably shine the most. For me personally, I tried WSD. I mean, I've already kind of used to WSD a bit from Diablo 4, which already has it for a long time now. And I tried it there, here and there. I use it very often for like inventory, skill tree management, and so on, not necessarily for the gameplay itself. So it was kind of new to me. It felt very clunky at first, especially on the melee characters. On the range, it feels better, I'd say. And on the melee, it's like, yeah, like I didn't really warm up to it too much. And it's also like so many buttons to press because you have to WSD, acrobatics, and then also go to the flasks, and then also press your skills. And it's all like with the same hand, basically. So I felt that was a bit much. I would actually enjoy this WSD stuff more, maybe if, for example, we had less flasks or something. I guess eventually you're going to go back to like, more flasks that are used proactively and so on. But
I don't think so. I think they're trying to move really hard away from that, because I was feeling the same way. Like if this had PoE1 flasks, WSD would be miserable. So I definitely agree with that. But I didn't get that feeling when I played so far. So
yeah, you only had like the life flask and mana flask, right? But I'm not sure what else you're gonna get, and maybe you're gonna not have any proactive flasks, only reactive flasks, and then it's probably okay. That's just like extra skills basically, and that you press them sometimes. But I also imagine that when the game gets much faster at some point, that is going to be a problem for WSD. I think WSD feels good when it's very slow, and it will not feel very good when it's very fast. Like imagine running at like triple the speed that you were doing, or something like that, or even more, right? Let's say, like crazy high-end setup or something. And I think then it's going to feel pretty horrible to play WSD, if you ask me. So
maybe
it's more like go-kart, like Mario Kart racing then, or something, I cannot imagine it to feel very good with WSD when you have like 300, 400, 500% movement speed. Or maybe just going to limit it very hard, like similar to D4, for example. You cannot go over 200% speed. So if it's like that, or movement speed is just so incredibly rare and premium, then it might be fine.
I don't think you're getting anywhere near 200. I'd be surprised if you get 70.
Whoa. Even with Headhunter and stuff.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if there is a Headhunter, I guess, have they said if there is? I don't even know.
I thought they said, yeah. I thought they
said the most iconic uniques will all come over, and Headhunter was mentioned.
Right. Well, the problem with Headhunter is strong because of the pace of the game. Like, look at Headhunter after Beyond, right? Like, it's a completely different item. Like, since Beyond got nerfed so hard, it's just like a fraction of where it used to be. So I don't know. And yeah, it depends how things will stack and how many rares you're killing. Like, if Headhunter is just like a tiny speed boost for like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, like, yeah, it might not be the end of the world.
I'll be real surprised if we don't end up. I think there's a lot of the game's going to be slower. It's going to be 70% movement speed. It's going to be. I don't think any of it's a real worry. I think we're still going to end up at not as fast as we are now, but I think we're still going to end up with speedy builds that have 1 or 2 buttons max by the time we get into the end game. I'm making my personal mission to make that happen because I like 1 and 2 button builds.
I mean, if you manage to create that build, man, everyone will sub to you. You know?
I'm so sure about it that it'll be fine. I'm like so sure it'll be fine. I don't know if that's me coping. I don't know if that's me coping, but I think I'm gonna make 1 to 2 button builds. That's all I want. Preferably 0. I like 0 button builds the best.
Good luck with
What
that.
build is really a 0 button build, dude? Like
Right,
even
fire.
in PoE1, like I mean, you could play
Yeah,
Death
RF.
Self, but then you deal 0 damage while you
Minions.
press 0 buttons.
Yeah, minions where you just shield charge through. Those are really good.
Yeah.
All the Spectre
Shield charge
builds
is a
where you
button
like.
build.
Yeah, like, but when we say 1 button build, there's
Okay.
always going to be a movement. Those don't count, right? Movement
Okay,
skills don't
fair.
count.
Everything is at least 4 buttons because of the movement. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't count those. Castball stun chieftains right now.
Sure.
Like, those are super common. They got no active ability they can use at all. I just walk around.
Yeah, I played that last thing. It was fun.
Yeah.
How is that fun?
Well, it was. So what I was doing was fun. It was very interesting. It was very scary because I was doing like super, super deadly tier 17s. And I was like borderline immortal. It took a really fucked map to kill me. And you were just standing there like, am I gonna die? And your health bar is like, and I was like, oh, I'm like so fucked. I actually took a tier like, so like for the content I was doing, I didn't die at all, but then like I rolled a really messed up tier 17 fortress and died to it. But that was like I was like saying like, all right, see you next league, and then boom, resurrected standard.
I get it. That's
But
pretty
like it took a lot to kill it. It was very cool to play.
All right.
Terrifying though.
I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to steer the topic back to PoE2 because there's one big change from the version that Balor and I played in LA to this version that we haven't covered at all yet, and that's the way that skill gems level up. As there's no more gem experience, but you'll now have to use your uncut skill gems to level up skills. So how did you feel about that when playing this?
So I mean, I didn't really get to experience that. I didn't actually level up any of my own skill gems that way. And I do want to like add as well that you're not going to have to find 20 skill gems to hit level 20 on a skill, because you will be finding like a level 17 uncut skill gem, a level 20 uncut skill gem, etc. So instead of like having a gem at level 1 and leveling it up each time, at some point in the end game, you'll just find a level 20 uncut gem and be like, oh, I want a level 20 frostbolt. So that actually sounds really nice. Like when I first got it explained to me, I was like, that sounds awful. But then, yeah, it's the fact that you can actually drop level 20 gems. That does sound nice. So it'll be, yeah, I think it'll be a lot better, to be honest.
But if I understand it correctly, you have to drop like a higher level gem to level a gem. Like I can't use a level 1 uncut skill gem to level up a level 2 uncut skill gem to 3. Like I need to
I
find a
think
level
you
3 at
can.
least. No, that,
I think you can like pound in like 5 level 1s into your existing gem and level it up from 1 to 6.
I'm pretty sure I
early on.
specifically tried that, like, and I couldn't, like, I could only make a new skill gem from the uncut skill gem that I
Right.
found because the skill gems I had were already higher level, and they didn't offer to level up with it. But yeah, I mean,
But
I guess we
I
both.
feel
haven't
like
played
they
this.
mentioned that isn't in the version we played yet, but it is going to be. But now I'm a little unsure.
Okay.
I didn't know about this actually at all, so I have not tried to level up my gems. I just found the uncut skill gem system pretty good. I didn't know that this is how you level them, and I didn't actually notice that you don't get a skill XP. But now that you say it, yeah, I never leveled up anything. So
Yeah,
I
never did.
but I really like the idea of the system actually, and especially if this
Yeah.
doesn't become like, I don't know, inventory management hell where you find like level 5, then you find level 6, and then I don't know. I guess you can drop them out of the inventory at some point or whatever of your stash, right? But otherwise, if you can use lower level ones to like slowly increase, the levels of the gems, I think that's pretty cool. You can just like throw them all into your setup at some point, and then eventually you're gonna find these level 20 gems. I think like the whole like re-leveling skill gems, once you are like already in mapping and so on, doesn't really serve much of a purpose anymore. You just want to use the skill and that's it, or you want to use that support and that's it. You don't want to like level again. Like in PoE1, I always find this very annoying, to be honest, to re-level the skills if I have to do that at some point, like the flipping and so on. So yeah, I kind of like.
I think it'll be really good.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that like in the end it's the same. We'll have all skill gems at level 20 or whatever the max level is then. But like on the way there, you get to make a choice between which skill you do prioritize, as opposed to them all just leveling simultaneously, as they all get the same 10% of your unpenalized character experience. Yeah. But before we go into the next topic, Ziz, I am very aware that you are on limited time today. Is there anything that you want to quickly still talk about, or like I don't know, is there anything that you wanted to bring up that you wished we would have covered before you leave?
Well, I mean, I think one big concern people have is that PoE2 will be ruthless, and I've been playing ruthless now for the last few days, and my experience in LA was not like ruthless. Like you do get like more items and stuff when you're playing even early on. Definitely not like PoE1 levels, but it's somewhere in between. I'd say it's like not like, maybe like 30 to 50% of the way towards ruthless. It's definitely like very different though. So that's like, now that I'm trying ruthless, like, it is not this, because this is pretty rough. It's very ruthless. Like I've found 2 Chaos Orbs so far and I'm level 74. So it's like, I already had more
Sounds
stuff.
like PoE2 to me, man. I mean,
I got way more stuff in PoE2, but like that was in like a 5-6 hour playtime, right? Like I had more stuff in 6 hours played. Like this is 19 hours played, by the way, and I have 2 Chaos Orbs. So like it is rough in Ruthless. It is definitely nowhere near this punishing.
Right. Okay, last question before I let you go is this week's League Gauntlet is coming. When is the announcement? What can we expect? It's going to be rough, right?
So normally we alternate like an easy gauntlet and a hard gauntlet, and the last one's hard. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make the last one easy by comparison by how hard this next one is. So even though the last one was really hard, the next one's just gonna be that much harder that it makes the last one seem easy. So that's a
you
new
still
approach.
get the alternation,
Yeah. It's gonna be really hard. I tweeted out the day. Let me find that real quick. I think it's the 26th of September, 27th. 26th or 27th. Let me see. 26th PDT, Friday, September 27th NZT. So yeah, we'll have an actual like countdown and announcement in not like too long, but either way, like around there. So I'm very excited for it.
Same. I haven't decided yet how much of a run I can give it, but I'm definitely excited to see what the best racers make of it, as always.
It'll be crazy. It'll be a crazy one. We have some new stuff cooking up.
Yeah, I heard. Well, that said, it is 1 hour in. Thanks for being here, Ziz. Thanks for making time.
Thanks for having me.
And as always, glad to have you, and talk to you soon. Have a good one.
See you soon. Bye.
So that was an early departure, but I'd still like to hear from you guys because we've prioritized this in these last couple minutes because I knew he was on limited time, but I think you haven't said anything to the skill gems yet, Balor.
Well, I didn't get to see them. I don't know if it matters to me right now. Skill gems in PoE, the way I level them in PoE1, it's just a passive income thing. It doesn't like add anything of interest. It's just if you can be bothered to buy all of the gems and fill up all your off weapons with them and constantly flip them and re-level them over and over again and sell them, then it's passive income.
Okay, so that's the first thing you think about when we talk skill gems are not going to be leveled the traditional way. Is like, oh,
the first
my
thing I think
income
of is my
gone.
passive income goes away. But then I think to myself for a minute and I feel like that's a good thing, because that passive income is absolutely annoying. That doesn't add anything to my gaming experience. That's just, if I'm willing to annoy myself for 10 minutes here twice a day, then I make more passive income than everyone else. But if you take that away, you've just stopped me from having a boring, annoying section twice a day. So that's fine, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that, I gotta say.
Yeah.
It's actually with a lot of changes that they make where you're like, oh shit, they took this away from me. But then you realize, oh yeah, they took away the feeling that I need to do it from me.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
I think it might be good. I always hated doing that anyway. It was annoying. So let's go. And now I don't have to do it anymore. I mean, I'll still have to do it because there's no way I'm not playing PoE 1 just because PoE 2's out. Like, I'm obviously going to be playing both of them. But
I wonder how it's gonna feel to go back to PoE 1 after blasting PoE 2 for a while, and then vice versa. At least, like, looking at Diablo 4 versus Diablo 3, like, I don't really see myself going back to Diablo 3 much anymore. So okay, I could play like a weekend on a season start, maybe, try to race for rank 1 or something. But outside of that, yeah, I even skipped like last season entirely because last epoch came up, and I don't know how it feel about PoE 2 versus PoE 1. I mean, I already talked about it earlier, right? I'm not really playing that much PoE 1 anyway these days. I'm kind of like in PoE 2 waiting room. But from like the perspective of like the existing, PoE blasters, I guess you guys and others, I wonder how much they will actually go back on PoE 1, depending on how much they will get patched, I guess.
I hope it'll be different enough that I'll still want to, because like right now I play most seasons, I play a week or two of Torchlight. Most seasons I play a week or two at least of Diablo 4. And like I'm still, while it's PoE main all the time, like I still jump into every other ARPG I can whenever I can for whatever launch is like available. And so
yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people do
hopefully it's
exactly
still good
something like
enough
that.
for
Yeah.
Like and I think it will be. I think it'll be fine for me to be like, all right, I'm going to spend 2 or 3 weeks playing this. And then
Do we have information about what they're planning to do with PoE 1 after the launch?
Roughly, we just know that they plan on continuing to do it and that they plan on staggering league starts.
Yeah, okay, that's the most obvious, I guess. The two questions more like the updates, like the patches. Are we gonna get like 4.0 at some point or whatever? I guess not, right? So it's just gonna be like 3 points,
they
forever.
They full on want to continue developing it as its own game. Like that's what they've said so far.
Okay, that seems ambitious, but let's see. Maybe they're gonna have like the main PoE 1 and the main PoE 2 player base, and there's actually not that much overlap to be expected. Who knows?
I mean, that seems ambitious. Feels like it could be GDG's tagline. So I'm not surprised.
It's GDG flavor text.
But I will be interested to see more, not like this year or next year, but like what about 3 years from now? Are we still supporting PoE 1 then? That I don't know about. I guess it depends on how popular it remains. Like if suddenly 80% of the people play PoE 2 and only 20% of those people are going back to play PoE 1 and then like 90% of those are done in 2 weeks and leave to go play other games, and it wouldn't be worth it anymore, right? So we'll see. I don't know. It just depends on how good it stays.
I don't know. From what we have, the current stand of information, or with the current stand of information, I have a lot of people in my chat who are just saying like PoE 2 will probably not be their thing. They'll play it when it comes out, when it comes into early access, and then they'll go back to PoE 1 because they enjoy that more. Because
but they really don't know.
We don't know exactly. But GGG splitting the two games basically allowed for PoE 2 to be as hardcore as it wants to be, or as they want it to be, while PoE 1 can be as blasty as the people want it to be. Right? It frees both games of the obligation to satisfy the other game's needs, or the other population's needs. So like they can diverge, and I hope that they're really going to embrace that. And really, once PoE 2 comes out and it is that hardcore back to the roots ARPG that draws in the people who fell in love back in the day when PoE was early access, right? When it had the same repressive mood and scarcity, and you felt like this is rough, but this time it's gonna feel smooth rough, as in like, because the game has playability and it's not clunky and you're not desyncing all the time and there's not like 1,000 things that you need to learn from third party, but it's actually in the game that you have the resources to get better at the game. Right? And then PoE 1 can just be that insane blasty game with like 300,000 monsters per screen and 20 exalts dropping at once and divines
I think
and all that.
9 out of 10 of those people who are like, I'll probably just try it. It won't be my thing, but I'll just play it for like a week here and there. They'll play it and they'll be hooked. They'll be in. They're doomsaying for nothing. And the reason I say this is because before I got my hands on it, I was also doomsaying a little bit. And I was trying to keep it as positive as I could, but I genuinely was worried about it because I like speedy, one button, obliterate several screens at once. Like, that's my thing, right? Like, I do that all the time. That's my thing. And so I was one of the people that were worried about it. And then you sit down, you play for 5 hours, and you're like, yeah, no, my bad. I was stupid. This is great. And I think that's what's going to happen to everybody.
Yeah, I guess one thing to like remember here is like Elden Ring won Game of the Year, and it is a pretty difficult game. And a lot of people were also very frustrated playing that game, but everyone loved it anyway. And I think it might be kind of the same case here with like, PoE 2 seems to be like a well executed game. It looks great, it has great progression and so on. And you're just going to get hooked somewhere, even though you are frustrated and it's hard and you die 10 times to the boss or something like that. And you just kind of like, like if the game is good enough, then there will be a lot of people that will still fight through that and, get to the end and then enjoy, everything about it. And this is obviously not for everyone. I also know people that just, said, okay, I'm not going to play Elden Ring, no matter what everyone else says. And that's fair, right? That's how it is. But I think this whole like, okay, the game is slow and difficult. Yeah, compared to existing ARPGs, in particular PoE 1, that's certainly like a huge, diversion from where we are, but it doesn't mean it's bad. And I think people that may think that they don't like it may actually enjoy it in the end, just because of how well designed everything is and how well it all, flows together with the character progression and so on. So I think it can actually turn out much better than people think.
I also think it's not nearly as slow as people think it's going to be. Like, it's definitely going to be slower than PoE 1, but like, look at anybody who's not a racer playing Act 2 of PoE 1, and it's not that fast. like when we do it, sure, maybe we're fast. Watch somebody playing it for their like third campaign run they've ever done in their life, so they're like comfortable enough with the game to know what's going on, but absolutely not fast. They're still real slow, right?
That's a fair point. Yeah,
we haven't seen any of the end game things, and when we talk to Jonathan and we talk to the other developers and we go, what's like, am I still going to have blasting? The thing that we keep getting told is there's still going to be quite fast blasting in the end game. You're still going to be able to get to places where you can obliterate the whole screen at a time. What we don't want, or what they don't want, is for you to start that way. You should have to earn it. And I'm like, well, that's great. Like, that's a good idea. We should have to earn it. It doesn't make sense that you're that powerful on day one, right at the beginning with no gear. But they just haven't shown us any of that. That's all.
I feel like not showing it is part of the, feeling that you earned it, because you exceeded what they've showed us beforehand. You've exceeded, what your image was of the game. I think that's really important, that they don't trivialize the game in their footage beforehand, right? That they build it up as this big, challenging thing that needs to be overcome, and they let the players solve the puzzle instead of showing the players how the puzzle looks when it's solved.
Well,
and I know you mean like half the way, not 100%. But
if there was like a 15-second clip in the middle of one of their trailers that went from 3 different builds for like 5 seconds each, in whatever the end game map was in whatever really good gear. You give me no explanation, hide the entire UI. I don't care. Just like 3 little 5-second clips in a row of like blasting builds through some end game map with no explanation would settle so many of those people's problems. So if you could just be like, there, see that 15-second clip in that one trailer? There's some end game blasting right there. That means it exists. Now we can calm down. Right? Like that would be enough. I'm telling you, that would be enough. Just like 15 seconds, 3 different builds, 5 seconds a piece. Absolutely no explanation about it. Just put it there, and everybody worried about it would go, ooh, okay, maybe I can.
I'd be highly surprised if on the like release trailer they don't have a little bit of a sneak peek at the power fantasy, similar to how back in the day when they made the Xbox version, they showed how you can like link skills, right? Where they like showed you this is rolling magma, this is rolling magma plus LMP, this is rolling magma plus LMP plus chain, and so on, right? Where you can see that builds actually like grow and become bigger because it's such a big aspect of the game. But yeah, as Ziz already said, or we all kind of recognize with these short gameplay demos, they don't get to show off every single aspect of the game.
Yeah, I think the gameplay demos are always intentionally very slow, very like kind of weak characters, so you can actually like show the animations and so on. I think like they always do that in every single trailer where they show off a new expansion or something. So I wouldn't really hold my breath on this. It is a funny idea. Does it exist? Yeah, who knows? So it would be interesting. But I guess they're just gonna keep everything under wraps. And then the thing is that whenever there is new patches, it will usually concern the end game and not so much the early game. The early game is polished. They've been working on this for like half a decade, even longer, right? And this is exactly how that also went in Diablo 4, right? The game started very slow, kind of difficult, and long progression, long leveling, and now 1 year later, the game is completely different, and everything is like way easier, way faster, way more blasting. And the kind of thing that people want from, like, for example, PoE 1 as well. And I think that something similar is probably going to happen with PoE 2 as well, where the game will come out despite the early access lasting for a while, and they're probably going to do many patches during that early access that, first of all, changes the face of the game completely. But then also, once the actual new leaks roll in and the new patches roll in after launch, I think in the first year, up to, like, let's say 2.0, like PoE 2 2.0, or whatever, the equivalent of, like, the expansion, for example, now in D4. I think that the game is also going to see exactly the same kind of transformation. Stuff is going to get faster, easier, more blasty, more endgame stuff that might just not be fully fleshed out now on launch. I mean, I do expect GG is going to do a lot more than Diablo 4 did at the start. That's not very hard. But on the other hand, yeah, it's true. But on the other hand, just the transformation that they can do in such a short time, we have seen that, how D4 has, like, all these, like, okay, I'm not sure how it is in the PoE community, but at least from the Diablo community, and what I know, what I see, all these like D4 bad memes have mostly disappeared. Like, no one really says that anymore, because the game just keeps going in a good direction. Yeah, they say, okay.
I have it from trustworthy sources who I asked IRL. Is it still bad? Like, people are stopping to say D4 bad. Gazzy said D4 good, and that person told me verbatim, straight to my face, well, many people have wrong opinions, and said, yeah, it's still kind of bad.
Yeah, I think it's mostly like the case of, like, people just, like, perpetuating the same opinion, and they have like their first impression from, like, last year. But if you look at what actually happened, and if people are going to jump in again now, it's a completely different game. And I think the same is going to happen to PoE 2. Like, 1 year later, maybe not as transformative as it was in before, because they actually changed the entire item system or something, and these kind of things. So I guess this is probably like more settled in PoE 2, and more thought out from the start and so on. But yeah, I would not be surprised for very large changes, especially once they also understand, okay, what do the people actually want, once they start reacting to what the people want. And depending on how PoE 1 also goes, I guess they might decide to wait for the feedback a little bit that rolls in as PoE 2 develops.
To
Yeah.
To be honest about the D4 thing, what I've been saying to people is D4 finally playable or finally ready for launch.
Yeah,
Because it was
we're
like,
finally out of beta,
last,
exactly.
yeah, like last season or whatever. I was like, I only played for like 2 weeks, but I was like, this game's actually ready to launch now. Like whatever we were playing before still felt like a beta that wasn't ready to be played, that didn't have enough in it. And now it feels ready to be played. It took them a year, but we're like here now. So I've been telling people if they like tried it right at the beginning and they were like, this ain't it. What's going on here? That like you can go back now. Like it's got stuff now.
Exactly.
So,
And that's exactly also like I don't expect like people gonna do these PoE2 bad memes or something. But who knows? Maybe it is bad, no one knows. So it could happen that it's just going to be a disaster on launch, or at least in your early access. Stuff might be buggy, stuff might be broken. Someone's going to have some invincible one-shot everything, free screens away kind of build that surpasses
I'm
everything
gonna try.
else. Yeah, I mean, this is very likely to happen, I think, in early access at least, right? And then even when the game comes out, then maybe a lot of people will just not really like it because of the vision and because of how they, build it up, and everyone finds it too difficult and whatever, right? And then they're gonna be like, what are we gonna do? I'm pretty sure there's gonna be, pretty transformative patches early on in the lifespan.
And
Well,
something
if not
GGG.
for- okay, go for it.
There's something GGG is not scared of these days. Is just completely reversing their opinion on something if it turns out to not work. If there's something that they like really, really liked and they were like, nah, you'll really like this, and then they throw it out and everybody hates it, they're pretty open now to being like, well, I guess we were wrong. Let's get rid of that. Change it. So,
Specifically with the well, they didn't do that, but
Yeah, I mean,
well,
that's
worry,
exactly what I mean, right?
About that well a lot.
Yeah. I remember like when I had my interview with Jonathan, actually, like I had one of these interviews like, I don't know, a year ago or something like that about PoE2.
on your channel,
And this was
right?
like the time
2 hour
with
thing.
yeah. So this was with the time when they were talking about respecs and the gold and being introduced to the game, and it was supposed to be like very difficult to respec your character, similar to a PoE1, a high cost, and something you can kind of afford only later. And then I think it was actually like I think Zizaran in the interview before me asked about this, and this is what they said. Like it's gonna be difficult, and we don't want people to respec. And then in my interview, like 2 weeks later, I asked him again about this question. I almost didn't ask that question actually. There's one chat who told me, okay, please ask about this. And I was like, fine, okay. At the end, the last 2 minutes, I asked about the respec, and then Jonathan said, yeah, we changed it. It's gonna cost gold now. It's gonna be very simple. It costs almost nothing at the start. You can respec as you like, and did like a full 180 there. And I could imagine more stuff like that to happen as well, where there's just like, our opinion maybe didn't really match what people want, so they're changing it.
Have you, by the way, seen that feature is now in PoE1, that respecking with gold currently?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yes. I played a bit the current league.
And it's incredibly cheap early and oppressively expensive if you're level 95. Go back to Houston regrets.
Yeah, I mean, you have 2 ways now, right? So, yeah, I think that's fine though, and I think there's gonna be a lot more things like that where they're like, yeah, okay, we had this thing in mind, and maybe sometimes they also just try to design a certain thing for PoE2, already knowing, okay, this is something where we have to monitor very closely how people enjoy that or not, and even when early access ends or when the game is ready or something like that, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of stuff like that in the end game where they're like, okay, yeah, we know this could be weird or this could be something that people don't like, and maybe have a plan B already, like in the closet, kind of like just ready to pull out the drawer and go and something.
I do wonder when they're on those topics of like how those specific things work, how many people are in that room on each side, and how those like discussions / arguments go. Like I've always just wanted to like listen into one of those meetings, and in my mind, which is probably absolutely not the case, but in my mind there's at least one person on each side of that argument who's so passionate about it they're struggling not to yell and scream
and start boxing.
yeah, It was like, just no, I'm right. Just I'm sure it's nothing like that, but it just in my head, I'm just like, there's gonna be one like really upset person.
Probably. I wanted to ask one very specific question because earlier I forgot to bring it up. But you said you played all 5 classes, right? There was 5 different ones, and you played the ranger, right?
Yes.
Did you manage to beat that boss, that like weird boss that does the damage over time thing? Because that was awfully overtuned in my opinion, but I might have overseen something.
I have no idea which boss you're talking about.
It was in Act 2 where you went through that Faradun fortress, and there's like a boss that was like, I think the Perennial King was his name. And
No, I
he,
don't think I went to that boss, so I'm not sure, like, if
okay.
I, which path I was taking and stuff like that. I
Yeah,
only know,
maybe
okay,
there was a path past him or something like that.
yeah, I remember I died once, which I think was to a bug. Like, this wasn't a ranger. I died like once on, I think, the monk or something. I think I got bugged one shot from the boss, because otherwise the boss was only hitting me for like 10 or 20%, and then once I just died from something I didn't even see. So I found that was probably a bug. But yeah, like, I don't know, the entire time I found it actually not to be that difficult. But maybe that's just like, me with a lot of experience talking here. I thought that I would actually struggle a lot more against those bosses, but generally, okay, they have very telegraphed abilities. They're kind of slow. You can dodge roll and so on. So I felt like it was fine if you paid attention to the game and you kind of like knew your arsenal that you were carrying, basically, like with the flask, when to use them, the skills, how we combo them. Then it was a fine, like, high difficulty, but not to the point where I felt like it was like unfair or so.
I can't. I like specifically because I asked for that boss, because that boss I felt had such a huge health bar. It took me so long to get him down to 60% or 50%, and then he did like a phase transition, and then he spawned like things that you needed to destroy, and after you destroy them, they left like damaging ground on the floor. So even if you played the first phase perfectly, in the second phase, getting him from 50 to 0, which took a long time, I was not able to not take damage. Like dodging around, it was a very tiny arena, and there was very few safe spots. And so I was not able to avoid taking damage. I always ran out of flasks. I was like, I have no idea how I should beat this. Then on the other hand, on the warrior, you said you had an easier time on the warrior than on the monk. Did you use the raise shield skill at all?
I tried it a bit, but I found it very clunky. So I was just kind of relying on the passive block, and then otherwise just attacking in the whacking way.
I find that
and
interesting because the moment that I started using the raise shield was the moment that I all of a sudden got 3 bosses in one 30-minute run in the customer area. Because when you raise the shield, it's like a very short delay, like, or it's almost instant, and it avoids all frontal damage, like projectiles or melee. It's like a guaranteed 0% damage taken from that hit. And so
yeah,
it's like a very
I found it
reactive
also
skill.
pretty strong. Like if you actually manage to time this, okay, there's like this boss ability and this boss ability. Yeah, I used it on like 1 or 2 bosses here and there and these kind of things. But in like regular combat, I basically didn't use it because I was just running, and then I did my combo, blew up the entire screen, and that was it. And then for the bosses, it was kind of fine. But the problem is, if you raise the shield too long, you get staggered and you get like stunned, basically. And I didn't really see any indication of when that happens. So if you get hit like 2 or 3 times in a row with the shield up, then you just kind of get knocked out of that stance, and you take a bit of damage and stuff like that. So
I guess that just didn't
I didn't
happen to
like
me.
it. Yeah, like if you do like one block here and there, it's fine. But if you take like like multiple hits, there's probably like some invisible stagger bar or something. And I didn't like that. I didn't know when that would happen.
Definitely
So I
shouldn't
kind of,
be invisible.
yeah,
You
at the
want
very
to know.
least, I would
You
like
want
to
to
know
know
when
when
it
it's about to
happens.
fail.
Yes. Because this is the main reason why I barely used it, actually, because I never knew when I would get stunned, and I found that to be a bigger problem than just trying to dodge stuff myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
Just ask because for me on the warrior, I played the demo twice, and the first time I didn't even down the first boss, and then I was like, okay, I'm doing something wrong. I gotta adjust this. I asked Octavian about it a little bit, and Octavian said actually a lot of skills are kind of not as good as auto attack, like default attack. In a lot of cases, if you have a high uptime, is the best DPS on these characters. And then I was like, okay, I got to reevaluate my approach. And then I beat the bosses just by using the combination of dodge, like dodge roll and blocking whenever I couldn't dodge roll in time, but I always would like only block one hit and then dodge behind the enemy. And then I used Earthquake whenever it was off cooldown, like for the Aftershock. And then while the Aftershock was ticking, so it was on cooldown, you can only have one Aftershock active, I would auto attack. And that way I'd beat 3 bosses, no problem.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did as well. Like I also realized pretty quickly that the default attack was actually very strong when you only have like 1 link or 2 links and the links barely do anything.
Yeah,
honestly, I don't even mind that system very much. I think this is fine. You know, this is kind of like, it doesn't cost any mana. You just whack away in between your other abilities. And I found this to be actually like, it was just kind of like working. You know, it was just something to do, something to press. And I actually enjoyed having this default attack, honestly. So I wouldn't even mind if you could just even like beef it up somehow and actually make this like part of your rotation.
I think it was also necessarily a part of the rotation because I don't remember exactly what the skill setup was. I think there was still Bone Shatter, which is a strike, but if you weren't using Bone Shatter, all the other attacks you had were slams. And Infernal Cry specifically only triggered the extra damage on strike, I believe, on single target.
Yes, yeah. Someone says you can actually add links to default attack. I wasn't sure right now
Yeah,
if I
exactly.
did that or not, but yeah, in that case, you know,
Same.
I think this is fine. This is totally fine. You know, like you have like some random arrow shot with a bow, or you have like you know, you whack away with your mace, and this is just something that is like a filler thing, and it still does something. You know, like very often you have these cases where you have your main ability that does everything, and then everything else is just kind of supporting, because even just buffing your main ability by like 10% is way better than, you know, having a second ability that could do something, right? And it seemed like, at least in the early game in PoE 2, that was actually, you know, you can use multiple abilities and they have a different flow and a different, you know, effect on the enemy, and that felt really nice. So I hope that this is actually going to continue until later.
I didn't realize you could support auto attack.
I'm not sure whether that was in the game when we were there, but I think Octavian actually mentioned it to us when we were asking about me not being able to put down the bell because I wasn't building up the whatever stacks it was, like rage or some sort of stacks that you need in order to put down the bell that the monk has. He said you need to use a strike skill in order to do that, and I was only using slams, right? And so he said we found out my only strike skill at that level was my default attack. And then he went on and told us about how in PoE 2 there's actually going to be default attack supportable, but I don't know whether it was in there when we played it.
Yeah, I think it was.
It was there when we played at Gamescom, for sure.
Yeah,
Right.
in Gamescom, yeah, it was there. I did that as well. Actually, like I found like all the other stuff that I could support, like in 1 or 2 of my builds, actually, like all the other stuff where I could add a support stem, I found like very useless, and I actually just supported my default attack.
Did you also do that on the Necromancer, on the Witch, like the minion playthrough?
Actually, the Witch I only, yeah, no, wait, the Witch I actually didn't do. It's the only character I didn't play. I didn't play the Witch,
Oh, okay.
unfortunately. So
I
I'm not
played
sure
it
about
after I had my interview with Jonathan because I asked Jonathan, if I only have the time to queue once more, which one would you like me to play after having played the Merc? Right, kind of want to know what are you most proud to have in the demo? And I feel like every time I watch the interview now, like I watch the footage again, I feel like he's so close to saying, that's such a stupid question. Because if I didn't like it, it wouldn't be in the demo now. But he was polite, he didn't say that. And then he recommended the Witch. I should do the minion stuff. And I was surprised that the Witch didn't actually do a whole lot of minion stuff while clearing, or at least initially, because you needed corpses in order to summon the minions, right? There was like a sort of skill that used corpses to summon temporary minions, but you don't have any corpse creating skill. And so what you needed to do in order to clear was you used Contagion and your basic attack, which for some reason I still didn't figure out, but the basic attack applied a debuff that dealt chaos damage over time. I have no idea whether it had like 100% chance to poison from the character somewhere, or
yeah,
I don't know what it
some
was.
weapons have built-in attacks, so maybe we're actually using that instead of just like, you know, default attack.
Basic attack, or maybe
Yeah,
it replaces the basic attack that the weapon would normally
yeah,
have.
that could be like, you know, some of the weapon types actually have their own attack that comes
Because
with
it did have a specific name, like a Chaos Slurp or something like that. Chaos Slip. I don't know.
Yeah, so it was probably that, exactly.
Yeah, that could be. Because now Contagion doesn't only proliferate the chaos damage over time from Essence Drain, but it proliferates any chaos damage over time. So you can use contagion for any poison prolif or any secondary chaos damage over time prolif as well, which I found extremely interesting. But yeah, so my witch playthrough, which only started at level 5, so this may be completely different once you're actually in the middle of the acts or in endgame, right? But it was actually sort of a hybrid between attacking myself and using spells and summoning minions to help out with damage.
Yeah, I guess realistically, you're probably gonna get to the point where you can do like a real minion setup. I guess you have to always see that, most of the early game stuff that we see in like the demos and in like the Gamescom up to like level 20 or something, you can't really specialize your setup, but you will be able to later when you have like, I don't know, 120 passive points and you have gear that, gives you this damage and that damage. Instead of, okay, at the start, you don't have any support for anything. So if stuff is supposed to be somewhat balanced, then yeah, you can combine the wackiest things, right? But I don't think it's going to stay that way.
I'm still, my biggest problem right now is when it launches, I have no idea what I'm going to play. Because on one hand, minions, but on the other hand, guns. Sorry, crossbows.
Really?
I've never wanted to bring a stick to a gunfight. There's no world.
Yeah, for me it's also kind of tough, but I'm definitely drawn towards the mercenary and the huntress, and I guess also monk and ranger. Like generally, I like these like kind of like more agile classes. This is rogue main and these kind of things. So like this is what I do, and I'm very excited to see them. But yeah, I think it's also going to be very fun to play something like warrior or like big slams or something with marauder. I think it can be really cool stuff for melee and PoE too, especially with it being a slower paced game. I'm definitely excited to also try more melee stuff. It felt pretty good.
I would love to be wrong, but I still don't think that we can. I still think melee is going to be bad. I think it's impossible to balance melee in either version of Path of Exile because you can play it as any class. Because we're not locked to anything, you can't balance anything for melee specifically like that. I don't understand how you're ever going to get a melee build that's good when you could do the same things from range. Like Diablo gets away with it because the melee class is melee. So you can balance the entire class. You can't do that. You can make a melee witch, you can make a melee ranger, you can make a melee anything, right? Like,
yeah, you can do that, but realistically, you won't. I think in most cases, like I think this PoE 1 also has largely the same, kind of like specialization into a certain thing when you play a certain class, right? If you play a witch, okay, there is a lot of like freedom and so on. You can do like wacky combos, but especially over the patches, over the cycles, we have ascendancies. You kind of get drawn towards certain synergies more directly when you play a witch than when you are a duelist, right? Making a duelist spellcaster is not as natural as it is like making a witch spellcaster. And I think it's going to be even more so in PoE 2, where you can do it, but you don't really want to if you want to make an effective build. I think
it's still pretty common over the last few leagues to have an attack-based witch. Or
it just looks super badass how the witch holds the two-handed sword, the animation.
I do agree with that. I like that wackiness as well, and I've also done like melee witches and these kind of things, but I don't really see it happening that much. You just kind of like, okay, maybe for experienced players, maybe if there's like certain combos that unlock only when you have this thing from that ascendancy, and this is like some unique effect that works really well with that item that you can get from that uber boss, something like that. I could imagine, yeah, sure. But I think in general, you're gonna play a monk and you're gonna be like some melee guy with a quarterstaff, and you're gonna be a witch with minions or some spells, and you're gonna be a ranger with a bow. I think this is how most people will play those classes. It's gonna be a stronger class fantasy, I think.
Definitely, but because we have the opportunity to pick anything, I think that's what stops PoE from being able to balance melee to be really good. Because you can just pick anything. And that means I can't make the warrior or guardian or whatever melee or monk, I can't make it inherently so tanky and fast that it becomes a competitor for a ranged build, when I could just if I can just take that set of defense and speed and then just put range on it instead. right?
I think you
Like,
can. Like you can still
maybe you
force
can.
people. You can force people into like actually using melee abilities on that melee ascendancy or something like that. You know, you can literally like put the names of the skills on them, or like I don't know, melee tag of the skill or whatever, right? So there are ways to do that. I think to force people to either in or out of certain combos, and I think that's possible. And especially, I think the main reason why PoE one melee is so bad is just because of the pace of the game. And because we are expected to screen clear everything at once, which a melee build cannot do unless you make them like, lightning zapping around and like, one-shotting everything basically. And yeah, of course, this is never really going to work out. So melee in PoE 1 has to hit the entire screen, just like how range hits the entire screen or chains to the entire screen or something like that. And in PoE 2, with the game just being slower, I think that will inherently make melee at least way closer to range. And then it's just like maybe like tiny adjustments they have to make from there.
I think ranged will also just not hit the whole screen and clear the whole screen. Like it will just come down and approach melee from the other side also.
Yes.
I very, very much hope that you guys are right and that I'm wrong, because I've played melee in other games and enjoyed it. But I've never wanted to play melee in PoE. It's always felt like the guy trying to bring a stick to a gunfight, and you're just going to lose.
Okay.
So I hope, I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to be like, yo, what's going on? These melee builds look great. So hopefully.
I actually played a lot of melee in PoE 1, and I really liked it every time I did it. So
I'm playing Glacial Hammer Slayer right now.
Yeah, actually, like my first character ever was a tornado shot raider, very, very long time ago, and I did like 40-40 of that in that league as well with that character. Like I went all the way. This was like my goal. I wanted to like just do everything that the game had to offer, which was in the Abyss League, so that was 3.1. And then my second character was an Ice Crash Slayer, I think. Yeah, that was really fun as well. I just loved like going around and hammering stuff with Ice Crash. That was just really cool. And then I played like other 3.1 in Abyss League.
3.1, yeah. At that time, also like with old multi-strike and like, right?
Yeah, I mean, back then I didn't understand the game that well, but I just kind of like tried to cook up some random stuff, something I enjoyed, and yeah, it turned out to be pretty decent in the end. Tornado Shot was pretty meta back then, actually, I learned. So that was kind of cool. And yeah, like stuff like that. And then I also made like many other melee builds after that. And I think even like that, even in PoE 1, it was okay for, if you're not like super sweaty, try hard about, how efficient it is or something. I think you can have a lot of fun with melee. At least I had. And in PoE 2, I think it's going to be way easier to have fun with melee. I don't think it's going to be a huge concern.
Yeah, Balor, I'll give you this. Like, the class I'm most excited about is Mercenary, because it's just a super novelty thing, especially the combos between the, having one skill to fire and then having several ammunition skills that you use to change what the firing skill does, which is it's just completely different. And it works so well with WASD as well, because you're still using your main mouse button for your main shooting every time, no matter which ability you use, right? And if you want to change the ammunition and you have to use your left mouse, well, your left hand, then you only have to take your fingers away from WASD for a very short moment, switch the ammunition, and continue playing, right? Dodge roll is on spacebar anyway.
Yeah, WASD is definitely made for Mercenary.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It feels.
I mean, this is where it came from, right? I think when they did the first preview of it, this is where they started. And yeah, it works so well with Mercenary for sure.
Yeah, but right after that, you saw what terrible choice the Monk was for LA, Balor, when we leveled together. Like, the Monk didn't have any sidestepping, didn't have anything, felt like very staccato and locked in place all the time.
Yep.
And maybe I just did it wrong. Benefit of the doubt here, right? Like, maybe there is a right way to play it, and it's actually super powerful, and I just didn't find it out. But the second class that I'm most hyped about after Mercenary right away is currently, from what I've seen, Warrior. It was so fun when I had that aha moment between the two playthroughs, and I really managed to like all of a sudden be 3 times as powerful as before just because I adjust the way that I played the character, like virtually all the same. Oh, by the way, I also didn't play WSD on the warrior. I changed back to traditional mouse and keyboard and was way better all of a sudden with move only on left click and like just, which may also just be years of muscle memory. Mercenary is a novelty. I don't have to, I'm equally bad with WASD and mouse and keyboard with Mercenary, but with Warrior, I have so much experience playing with mouse and keyboard traditionally.
It's kind of interesting because I felt the monk was actually very powerful, but you had to do the combo right. I think the monk was most reliant on doing the combo right, where like mostly with power charges. If you manage to get power charges from executing enemies, you had to get them low HP, and then you had to like a palm. I don't know what it was called, to get a power charge on like you would execute the guy. And even like just one single power charge, if you manage to get like one little monster down, you would do then your melee slime, like the main slime ability, and would like spread out in like a cone in front of you. And that was just annihilating everything, at least when I played it on the Gamescom client. So that was
which level did the mercenary start? The monk start at?
I think it was like start of Act 2, so I don't know, like 14.
Oh yeah, see,
12
I
or
only
something.
played it in Act 1. In LA, Balor and I did the console playtest, so we played couch co-op with controllers, and we had to start at level 1. So I got it to like level 14.
I definitely had the most struggle with the monk at the start until I understood what I have to do. And once I did that, it was probably the strongest actually, because I was just walking around. I was doing the combo with the like get a power charge from like a small monster, and then boom, like annihilate everything on the screen. Like it was crazy actually. I found it pretty OP.
I think Catmaster struggled more with using a controller than anything else. That's a lot of his, like, I don't know, 2/3 or more of his dying was caused by having a controller in his hand. No idea what to do with it.
Yeah, but the other thing, and you'll agree to that once I bring it up, but the other thing was we had the couch co-op UI where you have a shared like life and mana ball on left side and one on right side for each of the players. So my peripheral vision always tricked me because I always looked at Balor's life globe because that was on the bottom left of the screen, right? And mine was on the bottom right, so my brain just didn't link it, and that, even though it was a couple of hours.
He'd be standing in things and be like, "Oh, that doesn't hurt very much," and then, "Oh, I'm dead. Hang on, wait, I was full," and he wasn't. He was just slowly dying on the other side of the screen.
Balor revived me like 10 times throughout the 5 hours of gameplay. Right, yeah, I think we've mostly covered all the things that I had on my little document, and we've been going a little bit longer than originally intended. But was there anything that you feel we didn't touch on that you'd like to talk about or bring up?
Did you play it at Gamescom or not?
Balor didn't play at Gamescom. Balor wasn't at Gamescom,
get to go.
unfortunately.
Yeah, okay. So you didn't play. Did you also get, or did you see anyone get the prize? There was a prize in the Gamescom client that you could find. It was like a really rare drop that could happen from a boss, and they would actually get a physical prize. Really? I can maybe show that off real quick. I think I have it here somewhere because I found that thing, and they told me, "Oh my god, you are so lucky!" And it's literally an item that drops in the game, and
like a Roa feather or what?
No, when you pick it up, it's like a present. It looks like a little gift box, and then it says, "Okay, you won the prize. Talk to an assistant immediately to claim
that's streamer privilege."
Yeah, what's a streamer client for sure. Wait 1 second. I think I have it here. Wait, where is it? Yes. Okay. All right, I'll show it. So it's this. It's a Scroll of Wisdom pin.
Okay, yeah. So a friend of mine got some of those as well, but like he got them for finding bugs in the game, right? Like he found a bug and reported it to Octavian. Octavian was like, "Hey, you're good. Here.
That's nice. Okay. Yeah, maybe this is like
you definitely
told me
should have come to
really
the
rare.
LA event.
Yeah. Yes.
Because what we got from the LA event was these cool controllers with Path of Exile 2 on it, and like one of the like elite ones with like the back pedals and everything, and there's like a whole case with all the tools and hot swappable buttons and everything all over it. We got these.
Now they're bragging.
I gotta say they look really cool, but the only game I've ever played with a controller is Vampire Survivors, and that's basically it.
Yep.
So I'm not much of a controller enjoyer, I gotta say.
I
You
never
should
used
check
to
out
be.
Hades.
I never used to be, and I'm still gonna tell everyone like you've got so much better control with keyboard and mouse. I'm now a controller enthusiast because my hands are screwed, and playing games for a long time on a keyboard and mouse hurt my hands. These are compression gloves, but playing on a controller, I can do that for like 12 hours and nothing happens. So now I'm a huge, if I can play with a controller, I will, because it hurts less.
So last year, I didn't get one this year, but last year I got a shitty square map.
Nice.
So that's like the one map name that I quote more than any other map names because of the city shitty somewhat
Nice.
similarity. Anyway, there was something else I wanted to say. Oh, yeah, you should really play Hades. Did you hear that? If you haven't played Hades,
I heard
play
that.
Hades.
Yes, I haven't played it yet, and yeah, it's definitely something that I
got
have on my
gifted both
list.
of them, and I played only the first one. It's so good. Like I'm so blown away.
Yeah, at some point I will try to like fit in. I mean, this might be a good time now. Actually, maybe I'll do a bit of variety during September before the D4 expansion and stuff like that. So I'll keep it on the radar.
What is there between the D4 expansion and the early access in November? What should I be aware of?
No, I mean for now, for me, like I'm kind of like in the expansion prep mode, and we're doing a lot of guides for max roll and these kind of things. There's a lot of testing to do. Like there's actually the tester I'm starting tomorrow for a week and these kind of things. So there's a lot of work to be done here.
There's a lot of things that you do outside of gaming. I get that, like with the writing guides and but I was just asking because you sounded like you were very aware of like what is ahead, like what the plan for the next coming weeks. So that I was just curious whether there's any big.
No, like my
things
plan
that I should be
specifically,
aware of.
like I'm like D4 mode now. Then early access. I have to kind of like get a lot of stuff done in D4 in like the first 5-6 weeks until early access in PoE 2, and then gonna blast that, of course. I mean, I'm not part of the PoE team in max roll, since I'm like on the D4 team and doing that stuff. But I guess all the guys will have to do a lot of work once that comes out. So actually, Sis is in the Maxwell team as well, so he's not here anymore now. But would be nice to hear like if they're already like prepping or whatever. But I guess not really too much to do outside of like thinking about the general direction, I guess.
Yeah, and then just blasting away once early access is out to be among the first players to hit the end game and to recommend the tactics and stuff. Do you think early access will be open for everyone? Will it be free?
I expect so, at least. I mean, I'm not sure if they've said anything, but I don't see why a free game wouldn't have free early access. What's the point of that? So, I don't know. I would expect that everyone can just play it.
All I know is what they did for the beta last time. There was like a 3.0 launch or whatever it was. When we got all the extra acts. The only thing I know is what we did last time, which was last time it was any account that was like over X amount of years old was in automatically. Any account that had ever over the top cost of their entire career spent $500 total was in, and anybody who bought any supporter pack of an X tier was in. Like I forget what tier it was. It was like if you'd ever bought a high enough supporter pack at once. And then there was also a cheap supporter pack that was only like $20 that also came with keys. And then over the course of like a week, they sent out like thousands and thousands of invites randomly. And by the time it was like 2 weeks in, like everyone was there. I don't know if they're doing the same thing or not, but like it was super available last time. Like it was basically if you'd ever played PoE in the past, you probably already had enough.
Yeah, I think that might be something similar again. I don't know. I'm not sure if I would actually be eligible for the 3.0 beta that you just described, because all of the supporter packs, like like my wife has them and not me. I actually never really bought anything besides some stash stuff. So. And sometimes I got a dono from someone from chat who says, "Okay, you go buy this cosmetic now because I want you to buy it," and then it donated me like the amount. And I was like, "Okay,
I need to see you wearing this helmet Here's the money.
Yeah, I've done that like a handful of times or something. But
Yeah.
all the supporter packs are not on my account, unfortunately. So unlucky.
Damn. Well, yeah, no, I was just curious because technically there is precedent, right? Like we had early access, but they were all expansions. They were not a new game, so we don't know. But then on the banners where they advertise early access, like one of the big banners in the entrance hall of Gamescom, Path of Exile 2 early access, November 15th. Didn't say free to play. I mean, they said they confirmed PoE 2 is going to be a free to play. It's always going to be a free to play. But whether the early access will be free to play for everyone who wants to get in immediately, I don't know. It seems like a good idea or like a good way
I
to
guess
make a.
I guess there could be an argument to putting it behind some kind of paywall or some other thing, like, okay, like old accounts, whatever. If they are, for example, not actually ready with the shop or like the microtransactions, like if they say, okay, we cannot actually earn anything, from our usual business model, and they say, yeah, okay, it's early access, like maybe they don't want to sell anything through MTX during the early access because of, it's the beta and so on, right? Maybe they will say, okay, we're only going to send out some invites, or we're going to do this or that, or maybe there is like, okay, you can buy yourself in. I think that will be okay as well, depending on how exactly they frame it and like, what's the reason behind it. But if they should get something out of it, that's what I'm saying. Either through the MTX, through the shop, I think this is fine. But if for whatever reason they don't want to do that shop or can't do that shop, then I think it would be fine to do something else.
I definitely kind of just expect it to be free for everyone, to be honest.
Yeah, I expect it to, but who knows?
I won't be shocked. I won't be shocked if it's not and there's like a tiny paywall, but I would be very shocked if it was like a harsh paywall of any kind. If it was even like $60 to get in or something, that would shock me.
No,
like that would be.
No,
like,
no
I
more
don't
than 20,
imagine
30
it'd
bucks.
be anything like that. Oh yeah, if it's going to be paid, it'll be very cheap.
I think
Alright.
so too.
Well, then this seems like a nice point to wrap it up before we hit the 2-hour mark. You already said what do you have going. You're going to play the Diablo 4 PTR, and then you're going to create a lot of content for the new season that's coming up. Balor, what are you up to? You playing the new Last Epoch patch that's coming out next month?
It's like 2 weeks from now, I think.
Last Epoch,
it's
actually.
this?
Yeah,
Definitely
I'm
gonna do that. Yeah, definitely gonna do that.
Yes,
other
they
than
do like
that,
a cycle reset or something, right? I totally forgot to mention that. Yeah,
it's like a halfway cycle or something where they've got like some updates, but it's mostly still the same league but reset economy.
yeah,
Which
it's going to be
is
very fun as well to
interesting.
just kind of blast one character, do like another race. I hope that some guys, if there's like a lot of PoE viewers and blasters here, and if they're coming back, it was really fun to do the race for Aberoth on hardcore, and I hope that there's going to be like more people actually reaching that point this time. So hopefully some of the blasters come back from PoE. I'm definitely going to blast it for a little bit as well.
I'm going to give it a full character run for sure. I mean, I've only played, what was it, Acolyte and Falconer since launch. So there's still classes to be explored. I should make a mage, something. Maybe play the what was the triple element guy? That guy that I played at the Gamescom last year.
Yeah.
Rune Master, yeah, right. Rune Master OP. Yeah.
The only other thing I was considering between now and PoE 2's launch is just I haven't played an MMO in about 8 years, and I've never played Final Fantasy. So I was thinking about giving that a go, but I don't know how to go on stream. So if I play it for like 3 days and no one shows up, I'll abandon it real quick, even if I'm having fun. But I kind of want to try it. It looks like a good MMO. I haven't played an MMO in like 6 or 8 years or something, and I miss it.
I have never played GTA 5, and my stream kind of deserves that I play it because I promised it ages ago, and now I'm like not sure whether I'll be able to squeeze it in between now and PoE 2. And then after PoE 2, I don't think I'll ever play GTA 5. Not before GTA 6, probably. But it's like legit the only GTA out of all the 3D GTAs that I've never finished. That I haven't even started it, but yeah. Anyway. We did everything. Thanks for coming. It was such a blast. Felt so natural. Didn't even know you were the first time here. It's like almost like a regular.
I mean, we were hanging out a little bit already, right? And this one evening and stuff. But yeah, it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And
Thanks.
yeah, good luck with your GTA and Final Fantasy and everything. And at the very latest, we're gonna see each other in the early access, I guess. So
Yeah.
if you get in, yeah.
Well, are we all gonna play hardcore in early access? Probably not, right? Just blast softcore.
I mean, first character, I think it would be unwise to do hardcore. I mean, it would be fun to try. Maybe I'll try. I love playing like hardcore, and like basically like for the last years I've been only doing hardcore. Even PoE, I've been doing a lot of hardcore lately as well. And when I played it, but yeah, I love that. And for example, like I was talking about last epoch, right? We had the Arbor race, the cycle, and stuff like that. And also like no one knew it, right? And I just went in on hardcore anyway, and it was a ton of fun. But compared to PoE 2, I guess last epoch is a much easier game, and we have no idea about really anything that they put in there. And I think the GG is also like much more like devilish, I guess, in the development.
Yeah, they love killing players. I'd be
Exactly.
highly surprised if anyone survives their first hardcore run through the acts.
Like honestly, even after the early access, after people blasted for like half a year and like know the bosses, and I've done them like 20 times, all of them or something like that, then even then when the actual hardcore race starts and when the game launches, I think the winner is just going to be literally last man standing. Like it doesn't matter how fast you are.
That is how it used to be a long time ago in PoE 1 too, because I have some demis from winning races in hardcore in PoE, but I was never quick. Never. I was never quick. I have some demis from winning hardcore races, 3 of them, never quick. What I was quick enough to stay on the slash ladder and safe enough to not die over several days. And the wins that I have is from just pottering along on like positions like 6 to 10 and then just waiting for the people faster than me to die and then just casually overtaking them. That's always how I run.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it's gonna be in PoE 2 as well. Something like that, Like there's gonna be like some like probably really tough bosses, like somewhere, like the act end bosses and whatever, right? That probably like take a few, every time, like the first act boss, just like, takes away like 10%, and then the second act boss takes away 10%, and then at the end there's like 5% of the people from the start that even reach maps.
Yep.
And then you find the same bosses in the maps again at some point, and then you find the uber bosses and whatever, right? So it's it's gonna be like that. It's gonna be great. But I'm very much looking forward to like I think the hardcore race on launch on PoE 2 is gonna be incredible, especially like this history of racers that we have in PoE. And everyone playing that game, it's gonna be glorious, I think. So it's probably gonna last for a long time, even just to fill the like top 100 or something, right? And it's gonna be great.
Man, I've been trying to wrap this up, but I just came up with another
I'm
silly
just so
question.
excited, about racing.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. But are we gonna race in the PoE 1 directory, or is there gonna be a new Twitch directory for PoE 2?
There's already a PoE 2 Twitch directory.
Okay, yeah. Question answered.
I'm actually
Okay,
streaming
fine.
on the PoE 2 directory. I just chose that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I know that on YouTube you can already mark gaming videos as PoE 2 content, but on Twitch I haven't seen it. But yeah, fair enough. Good. That's yeah. You're gonna continue with your theory craft after this. Can I rate the crowd over to you?
Sure, yeah, I'm gonna be here for a little bit more. Yes.
All right, because I think Balor is going for breakfast.
Oh yeah.
And I have to head to bed to get up early and carpet the DM. All right.
Wait,
Well,
breakfast. Where are you?
Australia. It's 7 a.m. now.
Ah, okay. All right. Enjoy.
yeah, we're always very international. It can get really tough to consolidate the schedules of 4 people from
Also why I
opposite
couldn't
parts
come
of
to
the globe.
Gamescom. Because unless somebody's paying for me to fly there, That's too far. That's the furthest away you can get.
We're gonna figure it out. We got an entire year. We got to get you there.
Well, I'd pick up and leave for any event. I'd go to any event anywhere in the world if it was paid for. If someone's paying for me to fly there, I would get up and get on a plane tomorrow with no warning.
All right,
If
guys.
someone's paying.
Chat, you heard it. We just need someone paying, and Bella will come to Gamescom. We'll make it happen. We can do a live podcast, which we managed to not do in LA, but it was also a really short stay. But yeah, that will be great. All right, thanks once again, both of you, for being there. We're going to rate the crowd over to Woody. Everyone in chat, thanks for being cool, and thanks for saying nice things. And I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you want to re-listen to this, it will be uploaded in full to Spotify. Woody has also said he is going to upload it to his channel. And of course, you can always rewind it. It will remain available on my YouTube. And yeah, that said, have a wonderful time. Next week, we'll announce a next episode. And until then, have a wonderful time gaming. Bye-bye. Oh, wait, I have an outro. I forgot. I almost ended the stream, dudes.
I know a lot of people want to send blankets or water. Just send your cash.